Hello, this is Mark Allen. Thanks for listening to this Word in Your Ear, the latest episode in a podcast conversation that David Hepworth and I began in 2006. Yes, 18 years ago. If you want to help it continue, please consider being a Patreon supporter by going to patreon.com/wordinyour-ear for this and all the other entertainment we offer. And now, on with the show.
Word down your way. Testing 2, 2.
Welcome to another edition of Word Down Your Way, and to a former member of the Waterboys and World Party who's gone on to be one of the most successful British songwriters, and very interestingly, we've only just discovered this, and very appropriately, went to the same school as John Lennon. Guy Chambers, lovely to see you. How are you doing?
Hello. I'm doing great, thanks.
And you're down in your place in Sussex, I think.
I am. It's a very beautiful morning. It's heavenly.
It's gorgeous, isn't it? Now, look, You moved to Liverpool, I think, when you were about 13. So, Quarry Bank Comprehensive. Did they make a big song and dance about the fact that Lennon went there? And was that... They must have done so. Was that very thrilling?
I remember having a chat with Mr. Pobjoy, who was the headmaster, who was also Lennon's headmaster. And, they were aware of the fact that John... But I think Mr. Pobjoy said something like, well, of course, John really struggled at school and he was very naughty and, he couldn't wait to leave, I think was the phrase he used. Which I could relate to because I wasn't great at school. I struggled at school. I'm dyslexic and, I was I failed the 11 plus and, I wasn't very academic.
Can you remember the first records you bought?
I can. Benny Hill.
Hey! Nice.
Ernie.
Which one?
Ernie. The
Ernie, yes.
Movement in the West.
1971.
Great record.
1971. And I love your book, David. I really enjoyed your book. I also bought, I think maybe second record might have been Lily the Pink.
Hey!
By the
There's a pattern emerging here.
Yes.
Well,
like novelty. It's like novelty value.
And then probably the first rock record was Status Quo, Caroline.
Oh, very good.
Which I love that record.
Where did you go to buy records? Can you remember?
It would have been a shop in Liverpool. There's a shop called Probe, which is right in the centre, near the Cavern. And I used to go to this club called Eric's.
Mm-hmm.
You know
it well.
Yeah, I've been there many times.
Yeah, that was when I interviewed the Bunnymen there and Teardrop Explodes. Because you were about, 17, 18, when the second coming of Liverpool was happening?
I was a bit younger than that.
Younger.
I was Eric's had a teenage membership system. Did you know that?
No.
Where they would sell tickets on a Saturday for a matinee show for 50p, and you could see the band that was playing on the Saturday and the Friday for 50p at 6 o'clock. And the band would do like an hour. So I saw XTC first lineup, Generation X, Burning Spear, The Tourists, Eddie and the Hot Rods. I saw a few bands, and that was really my first exposure to bands when I was about 13, 14, that kind of age.
When did you first take part in a band yourself?
My first band was what's known as a show band. A band that does working men's clubs.
All right.
What were you playing?
Keyboards. A really horrible keyboard called a Krumar. It was the world's worst keyboard. I hated it, but I wanted to do gigs though, and the band was pretty good. We would do sort of Carpenters covers. I
was just wondering what was the typical kind of set list?
Well, definitely Carpenters songs, and the band were really good at harmonies. And that was the first time I really got exposed to intricate harmonies, I guess, in a band. Which is something that's fascinated me throughout my career. And, you know, I'm still do harmonies now. And I love it when I love harmony bands, you know, like the Byrds and the Eagles and Mamas and the Papas. Obviously, the Beatles are a harmony band, you know, in my, you know, harmonies are key part of their sound. But, yeah, we would do Carpenters, we'd do Abba, we would do, we used to do Easy by the Commodores. So it was quite a sort of middle of the road kind of band, but we were playing for, you know, people smoking and drinking in working men's clubs. You know, that was there was this circuit in Liverpool, very strong circuit back then of clubs you could do, and you could do, you know, 3 or 4 a week.
And how old would you have been at this point?
15.
Oh, right, okay.
And then I auditioned for a proper band. They were called Ton Tricks. They were like a Liverpool indie band when I was 15. And I went to the audition in my school uniform. And I remember being outside the rehearsal room. It was called Pink. It was called the Pink Museum. And there was a studio in there in a rehearsal room. And waiting there for ages. The whole band were really late. Like 2 hours late. They turned up. I got there at 4, straight after school, maybe 4:30. And they got there at 6. And they were all off their heads. And the very first song we played was I remember walking in the rehearsal room and seeing that all their amps were on 10. They're all on 10. Like, do you know, a Fender Twin Reverb is a particularly loud amp.
Yeah.
And it was on 10. I mean, a Fender Twin, even if you're on like 2, is quite loud. These were on 10. And the very first song, it was just fucking deafening. Sorry, excuse my French. I mean, it was so loud. And after we played the first song, I said to the band, "Why are you playing so loud?" And they all went, "Did you think that was loud?" And the bass player in that band was a guy called Mike Score. Do you know who Mike Score
Yeah,
is?
from
Flock of Seagulls.
Flock of Seagulls, the one with the sensational hair.
That was his first band.
Oh, right.
Wow.
And Steve Lovell was in that band, who ended up producing Julian Cope and Blur with Steve Power. So he was like an important part in my career because he got me a job with Julian Cope when we toured Japan a bit later on,
Right.
when I was older. So that band was, that was my first sort of proper adult band, if you like. But they were all a lot older than me.
And you joined World Party, and I can remember reading once you were talking about Carl Wallinger and saying that he was this kind of incredible human jukebox, that he just knew the entire back catalogues of various people. Was it Neil Young and people like that? Could just play them to order.
Yeah, we used to have very long jam sessions, and he's one of those guys who knew every verse of a Dylan song, you know, all 8 verses. There aren't many people around like that. You know, I'm noticing now, I don't know if you noticed this, but when you go to a gig now, even young musicians all use iPads or you know, they've got the lyrics in front of them.
They have auto cues. Yeah, it's completely accepted, isn't it? You have it stuck actually it used to be hidden and you'd be in something that was masquerading as a sound monitor. But now actually it's just attached to your mic stand, isn't it?
And it's, you know, I was watching Miley Cyrus the other day and she was doing covers and you could tell that she hadn't learned the words. But Carl, he was phenomenal, you know. He extraordinary memory, despite all the drug taking.
Yeah.
Right.
So who were the first songwriters that you really responded to and made you think that that's something you could do yourself and you were inspired by it?
Well, Burt Bacharach and Hal David. Obviously the Beatles. I was an enormous Beatle fan. Queen. AC/DC. Led Zeppelin. those are my early bands, really. And also Jesus Christ Superstar. I really loved that album. I still love it now. I think it's an amazing album. So, and also classical music. My dad was in the Liverpool Philharmonic.
All right, okay.
So he was in the London Philharmonic, and then when I was 13, he moved from London to Liverpool, and that's why we moved to Liverpool. So I was surrounded by a lot of classical music as well. I would go to see the Liverpool Philharmonic regularly, and there would be my dad would be practicing in the house with a harp player or something like that. So my musical taste is quite a wide combination of different things.
What were you looking at when you were looking at those songwriters? Was it sort of lyric storytelling, or was it just particular chord sequences, or what was?
I'd like to think I would analyse the whole thing. Like a song like Eleanor Rigby. It's the story, it's the melody, it's the orchestration. It's the whole package makes it such a powerful song. It's not just one element. And the perfect song is a song where the lyric and the melody perfectly match up. And the harmonies, they all work perfectly like a beautiful clock or something. So I'd like to think what I would do...
Give us some examples of that. That's really interesting.
Well, Eleanor Rigby is a good example. Strawberry Fields Forever.
Yeah.
With the melody, a very typical John Lennon melody, where it's just like single note melody. He didn't have the same beautiful shapes that McCartney had with his melodies, but his harmonies were very, I wouldn't say the word, almost subversive. They're very surprising harmonies. Strawberry Fields literally takes you on a journey, and you don't really know where it's going to go next. It has lots of transitions that are surprising, and I still find it fascinating now.
And the lyric too. The lyric is so amazing. Just kind of stumbling words, aren't they? They're just not kind of even thought through. It's extraordinary.
Well, he was a big Lewis Carroll fan, wasn't he? So it's got that lovely surrealist free association thing that's so beautiful.
Can you remember the first song you wrote?
No, but when I was a kid, I was more writing classical music. So I remember my first string quartet.
Right.
I wrote a string quartet when I was 11, and that was performed by my dad's friends. So like proper musicians in a church. And that was a big deal for me, realizing that you can write something on a piece of paper and then that same day, and then write the parts out. And then that same day, 4 musicians play it, and it all comes to life in a beautiful way. That made a really big impression on me. It's very powerful that it's magic, just magic. And then when I was at school in Liverpool, I wrote a rock opera. And
what was that called?
That was called The Prospect of Whitby. It was based on a children's book about a boat in Whitby. But I remember the song from that, like the opening song. I can remember the melody of it. And one of my best friends who sang in that opera can still sing me that song from when he was 14. Sorry, he would have been 12.
Give us a couple of lines from it.
Prospect was a Whitby ship. Do 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 do. I can't remember the words, but the melody went like that.
Right.
Yeah, the lyrics need working on.
Yeah. No, I wasn't a great lyricist. No.
So nowadays, do you write a lot? I mean, are you one of those people who, like McCartney or whatever, just has to keep doing it, to keep exercising the muscle? Or
I do write quite a lot. I wrote a song for my girlfriend yesterday for her birthday. It's her birthday today, and I like doing things like that. I like writing songs for people. I do quite a lot of that now, just for fun. Hopefully, make them laugh. I wrote a song about dyslexia the other day called A for Banana. But I also, obviously, I'm still writing professionally. But I'm not writing as much as I'm not in that merry-go-round of, a different artist each day that a lot of people are on that merry-go, that professional. Somebody like Ed White, for example, he would probably write with somebody every day, each week, week in, week out. And I'm not on that merry-go-round anymore. I found it too difficult. I couldn't cope with it.
Why was it too difficult?
I just found it. Maybe it's the wastage, and not knowing what. There's a good chance that like 90% of the songs will never see the light of day, because a young artist now will write 50 songs, and maybe 10 get used, maybe less. So there's a lot of wastage, and I found that pretty dispiriting.
How did you go about working with various people, like Robbie Williams, for example? How did you approach the two of you collaborating?
I didn't approach it. He was a force of nature. He would just walk in a room and start singing. No small talk. Just want to get straight in it. He would start singing, and I would grab a guitar and start playing along with him. Work out what the key was. I've got quite good ears. I can normally find the key in quickly, and then just join in and find the right chords to go with his melody, and then that's how we would start. That's how Angels started. He walked in the door with this melody and these words in his head, and again I just jumped on the piano and just sort of happened like magic.
So you've written quite a bit for people. Are they songs that you'd already written that they then sang, or did you actually specifically write a song for whoever, Tina Turner or Diana Ross or Tom Jones?
Tina Turner was commissioned.
So how do you go about writing a song for Tina Turner? Do you sit down and talk to her first about?
No. I knew that she really liked a song I wrote with Robbie called Feel. She absolutely loved that song. She came to a gig, and I knew I didn't get to speak to her at the gig, but I knew she was a massive fan of Rob, actually. And so that's how I got to. And then I wrote with a guy from Train, the lead singer, whose name escapes me, Pat something. And so she also liked Train as well. So I think she must have thought, well, if those two guys are in a room together, maybe they will write something I like. And we wrote these two songs, and she came to the studio, and I'd recorded the tracks, thinking they'd be in the right key. And the very first thing she says when she walks through the door is, "That's too low. We got to go way higher than that." And back then, there wasn't that technology where you could just transpose. Now it's easy to transpose now. There's software that does it in like 5 minutes. But back then it meant re-recording everything while she was there. So literally I went back to the piano track first, so piano and drums. The first time she sings it, I'm just playing the piano. I've got the drums in my headphones, and she's singing at me just with the piano. And then I did the bass, that's a second take. Then I did the guitar, that's a third take. And I did the organ, that was a fourth take. And I think by the fourth take, she was done anyway. She said, "That's it. I can't sing it better than that." And that was quite a buzz,
Right.
Like the pressure of that was quite immense. I had to play.
Fantastic.
I was like, wow, I've really got to play well. I'm playing with Tina Turner live,
Yeah,
It was incredible.
So tell us about your tour, your evenings with.
Yeah.
What's the format?
It's with a piano, with a real piano, not a fake one. I'm very big on real pianos. And I made a piano album of songs I've written. So I'll be playing some of that. I'll be doing a bit of singing. And the most unique part of the evening is I get somebody out of the audience to write a song with them in front of the audience, like live.
So how does that work?
Well, I've only done it once. I did it at the Bewdley Festival.
Yeah.
And I just got somebody out of the audience and I said, have you got any idea for a lyric? And he said, well, funny enough, I've been reading Winnie the Pooh. And I really like these lines from Winnie the Pooh. I forget what the lines were. And the lines were really nice. So I wrote the lines down, like a couple of lines. And we started with that. And that became the chorus, I think. And then I said, so we should try and write a verse. And it all came together. I mean, I didn't do a whole song, obviously. I just did like a verse and a chorus. It took maybe 10, 15 minutes. And people could see, they got a window into how I work, I guess. And that seemed to be a nice thing to do. And I don't know if anybody else is doing it.
That's a really, really good idea. But you're putting yourself under quite a lot of pressure every night.
I am. But the way I think of it is, even if it goes wrong, that's also interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Why should it go right every time? You know, and if it's not, and there's something beautiful about it going wrong, because it proves that I'm human like anyone else, and I don't write a great song every day. You know, it's impossible.
So how are you going to select the volunteers from the audience?
I think in the interval, in the first half, I'm going to say, before the interval, I'm going to say, so anyone wants to come and write with me, meet me in the interval, you know, like somewhere. I'll designate an area by the bar or whatever. And then I'll talk to them about it, and I'll try and work out really quickly which one might be the most likely candidate.
And then very diplomatically let them know and let the others know that that's the one you've chosen.
Well, I guess I'll take their names.
Yeah.
I'll take their names, and then in the second half, I've been having a little think about this, and I think that Graham might be a good candidate, or Anna, or whoever. And I know I'm also going to get quite a lot of Instagram, probably people saying on Instagram, oh, I'm coming to the Liverpool Philharmonic. I'd love to do it. And then I could have a quick look at their Instagram and cheat a little bit and see if I actually like their voices. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's in Liverpool, for example, I know a few people in Liverpool. So, you know, maybe it might be it might be Dave McCabe from the Zootons. And maybe me and Dave write something in front of everyone. You know, it should be fun.
Yeah.
Right. So it's another way. It's another way of doing live performance. It's a twist.
I just want to, when I perform the songs, obviously I tell the stories behind them. People seem to love that, and I just wanted to do something unique. As a songwriter, I am pretty quick. As I say,
that's the stories about how they came to be written, or what?
Yeah. And how they came to be written, where they were written. Is there something funny relating to that story, you know, or tragic? Or, you know, the difficulties of writing, say, Feel, for example, which was a particularly difficult song, as was Rock DJ. And people seem to like that. And I'm okay sharing it, you know.
Well, have you always known when you've been involved in writing a song that was going to be a big success? Have you always known quite early on that's a keeper, that's gonna work, or do you have to return to it 2 weeks later and hear something in it?
I think I tend to know, especially. You see, the thing is, if it's with a new artist, and you have no idea if they're going to make it, it's very hard to make a judgment of a new song, because it's such a lottery as to whether someone's going to make it or not. Yeah. It's, you know, there's so many pieces in their journey that you have no control over. But with Robbie, it was very unusual because he was already famous.
Yeah.
He had really good management. He was on a really good label, EMI. He had a lot going for him. So when we wrote, I could feel his power sort of as a star. And even though when we wrote the first record, we hadn't performed at all and he was in bad shape, I still got the sense that when we do perform, he will be amazing. I just got a sense of it. I didn't need to. And the very first performance we ever did was on TFI Friday. We did Old Before I Die on TFI Friday. And he was just phenomenally good. You know, he was just such a great performer straight away, you know. Super, just
That's such an interesting point, that if you get somebody who isn't that well known, you're taking a real risk, because the reason the song might not be successful is simply because they aren't, you know, they haven't made that big connection yet.
Yeah, or ever.
Yes.
And I've written with lots of songwriters, lots of artists who never made it. They got dropped, you know, before even their first album came out. That can happen to artists. You know, they can be on like a singles deal and then they never make the album, or they do one album and then they get dropped. There's loads of them. Like Katy Perry, she was signed 4 times till she had a hit. Mm-hmm. 4 different labels. Yeah, it's extraordinary the journey people go on to before they make it. You know?
Yeah. So it's like it's more and more like films, isn't it? You've got to line up a script, a director, a cast, all those things.
Yeah, now it's about social media and you know, your followers and TikTok and all those things, and that's even more of a mystery to me, really.
Right.
While some people go huge, and some other people no interest whatsoever.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you feel about the drift towards kind of huge teams writing songs? People being responsible for all the different elements of them, the top lines and the melodies and the lyrics, and just the number of credits you now get on. I mean, what do you feel about that?
I'm not keen on it. I don't like being part of a team, to be honest. To me, any more than 3 is, I can't really write with any more than 3. I don't like it. That's been my experience. But often with the teams, it's like somebody might not actually write, but they do the beats.
Yes.
And then somebody else might bring in the drugs.
Yeah.
And they get 5%. You know what I mean? It can be a bit like that. The actual writing's probably actually done by 2 or 3 people.
Do you only work on things where you can be in a room with somebody, or do you get involved in these things where send us a few bits that you've got and we might mix them with some of the bits that we've got from somewhere else?
No, I like being in the room. I like being in a room with people. I like eyeballing someone and reading their body language. You know, when you play something to them, an idea, I like to be able to read whether they like it or not. And some people write on Zoom, but I just can't do it. I need to get that chemistry.
Right.
Are there any particular songwriters that you're watching very closely at the moment and really admire?
Yeah. I like Olivia Rodrigo. I think she's phenomenal. I like Lana Del Rey.
Why particularly?
Lana. I like the fact she's created her own musical language. She's got her own world, you know, her own cinematic, whatever you want to call it. How does she describe her genre? Is it something like Hollywood noir or something? It's something like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
I like artists who create their own musical world, like the Cocteau Twins, for example, who I saw in Liverpool. I was lucky enough to see them play.
Those early records of theirs are astonishing, I think, because they appeared to be in another language, didn't they?
That's right. And they were really good live. Really good. But you know, I like people. Madison Bridges, I like. There seems to be a lot of women.
Yeah, well, there are.
To me, women are very much on the ascendant. You know, there's a French artist called Juliette Armanet. I love her. She's amazing. There's loads of phenomenal talent out there, for sure.
Who of the old school of songwriters have you been most thrilled to meet?
Well, Bjorn and Benny was a big one. I met Benny and Bjorn backstage at the Brits. I met Fleetwood Mac. I met the whole of Fleetwood Mac. That was pretty amazing because when they did the Brits as well. I met Eminem. I couldn't believe how short he was. He had these enormous bodyguards. But Beyonce, when she was really young, she was 16, I think. I met her at Top of the Pops. David Bowie. That was a very awkward occasion because we were doing a show called Netaid. Do you remember Netaid?
Oh, yeah.
It was at Wembley. It was at Wembley Stadium.
Yeah.
And so the bill was Bowie, George Michael, and Robbie Williams. And the shocker was that was the order as well on stage. So Bowie, then George Michael, and we were headlining.
Oh, Bowie was third. Okay.
Well,
He was third on the bill,
Wow.
and he was not happy about it.
How did he express that?
I tell you how he expressed it. He did his songs in a really kind of jazzy cabaret Kurt Weill kind of way. You know what I mean?
In a kind of I don't care.
He did like, if you're going to put me third on the bill, I'm going to do really weird versions of my songs that you're not going to like.
I'm going to do third on the bill treatment. Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly what he did. And George Michael was even worse. George Michael deliberately went on 20 minutes late. So we had 20 minutes left of our set. We had less. We had to cut our set by 20 minutes, even though we were headlining.
Ah, the camaraderie of musicianship. Yeah. One happy family, self-supporting. Yeah.
And this was a charity show.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, they're the worst.
Yes. Everyone up there most charitable. Oh, Christ.
And of course, I had a day with Paul McCartney as well when I produced the Hillsborough record.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, the charity record for Hillsborough.
Yeah.
And Paul was on that. He wanted to perform on it. So I had a day with him in Peasmarsh in his studio in Sussex. And the most
Did he talk about any of the songs that you'd written?
that I'd written?
Yeah.
No. I think when you're a Beatle, things tend to come back to you.
They do, really. The conversation tends to get round to him. So
But the funniest thing in that day was I got there at about 10. I think we started working at 11. By about 2. Oh, by the way, I had to get up pretty early to get there.
Yeah.
I lived in London then. I was starving hungry. So by 2, I was really, really hungry. So I said to Paul, does someone make lunch for you? Or, you know, I just thought you'd have a chef or something like that, you know. And he said, oh, okay. Oh, yeah, you're hungry, are you? Yeah. Well, follow me. And we went into this little kitchenette in his studio. And there was a little plate with a bagel, a single bagel with cream cheese. And he cut the bagel in half and gave me half of his bagel. And that was our lunch.
Very good. Excellent. That's what I like to hear. So you're looking forward to your tour, your evenings with.
Very much so, yeah. And we keep getting dates being added, which is great. I think I'm going to Ireland now as well, which is exciting. I think I'm doing about 12 gigs, something like that. Playing a great new venue in London called Ladbroke Hall. Have you been there yet?
No.
It's in Ladbroke Grove. It's an old car factory. It's really cool, and it's got a beautiful Steinway piano. And I'm very much looking forward to going to Liverpool because I haven't been there for a while.
Good.
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to it. And thanks for plugging it twice.
That's all right.
Not at all.
I appreciate it.
We'll run the tour dates under this. And
Thank you.
What are you doing? Do you know what you're doing beyond that, or see what turns up?
I'm sort of thinking from now till then. So I'm working on a film, which is a Christmas children's animation film, and I've been working on it for a while. So we're just almost finishing that. So I'm going to Prague soon to do all the orchestrations. So that's with an orchestra for 2 days. That's really exciting. I'm also working with Matteo Bocelli, Andrea's son.
Oh, right.
And I'm producing him. And I've got I'm also with the Lemon Trees. I did a record with the Lemon Trees, my old band, which is on Spotify now. And I did a gig at Amazing Grace last week in London. Have you been to Amazing Grace?
No. We did gig with what? With the Lemon Trees?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
I played at Amazing Grace. It's a fantastic venue in London Bridge. It's beautiful. Really, really good. So I've been singing a lot more. So that's been really fun.
Good. Well, look, it's been nice talking to you. All the very best.
Word down your way. Testing 2, 2.